Saturday here in Downer started out on the easy side besides one section. We had a shootout format, so we did 2 loops of 12, and there was one number 4, 3 or something like that, had a really off-camber rock slab turn, and I don't think anybody figured out how to clean it. I was able to get a 1 and a 2, so I was actually leading heading into the shootout, but only by a point, so really tight, a lot of pressure going into the shootout, and the sections looked really difficult. I was able to clean everything up besides number 3. There was one really tricky corner at the end, and I took a point on the first ride, and then I was able to clean it on the last ride, and that being the last ride of the day, the crowd cheered pretty loud, and that was awesome. Definitely made me feel good to end on that note.
Saturday actually started off better than I thought it would. Coming out west is always a struggle for me, and so getting used to the bike and the elevation and the grippiness of the rocks has always been a real challenge for me. So I just tried to find my flow as quick as I could. Luckily the morning sections were pretty easy, I would say. You definitely had to work for stuff and force some issues if you had to, but all of them were pretty much cleanable, and I was really happy to only be going into the shootout with 7 points, which put me in 3rd at the time, ahead of some really good riders. So I was really happy to take that into the shootout, and then shootouts really have never really been my forte. I've always kind of struggled. For some reason, everyone watching and the pressure has always just been one of my weak points. Something to work on for sure. It's hard to practice being in those scenarios, but I just tried to do the best I could. And I think I was riding really, really well up until my brother took a pretty hard fall, ended up hurting his arm pretty bad. And so it's a bit hard to go into a section knowing that the guy right in front of you just totally folded himself up. So I just tried to do the best I could. I put that behind me after a couple of failures, and then from there on I just tried to find my flow, stay smooth, and not let the pressure get to me. Overall, I ended up blowing my 4-point lead actually, so I went from 3rd to 4th, only by a couple of points, I think 3. So definitely some stuff to work on, but my riding's right there with guys that ride full time, so I have to be happy with my riding.
Pat Smage!
The sections on Sunday were definitely harder than Saturdays, more technical and just kind of awkward. Just couldn't quite figure out all of them right away, and we were really using some lines that were really close to cards and gates, so not my favorite style of section, that's for sure, and I just didn't feel like I had the fight in me to fight for every point, so it took quite a few single dabs and ended up having 2 3s in number 6. I was able to clean it up on the last loop and just had 1 single dab, so happy to turn it around a little bit and finish pretty strong, but overall not really happy with how many single dabs I took. But the bike this weekend ran awesome. This is once again the most power we've had at this high of elevation, so really happy with how well the team worked together and gave me a great bike to ride. So thanks to them, and thanks to Luke for minding.
I really didn't know what to expect going into Sunday. The day after a shootout's always tough because usually the organizer sees how well we ride in a shootout and says, oh, we could probably do that in every section for the next day. And so that's kind of what it started to feel like on the front half of the sections up until section 6, I think. They were really, really hard. You had to hit your marks perfectly and manage your time really well in each section. So that was a bit of a struggle, I think. But going into the back half of the first loop, I started to find that the sections were much more rideable, much more friendly, and that's where I could finally find my flow. Everything settled into place really well, and pretty happy with how that went. I think in the back half all day I dropped 2 points, so have to be happy with that riding. The front half had a couple of really, really tough sections, and I came out in 4th again, only by cleans this time. So to be that close to guys, once again, that ride full time. I have a full-time job along with doing this, so it's always a bit of a struggle coming out here and trying to compete with guys, especially if they're from the West. And so I got to be happy with how I rode. Just wish I had taken 1 less point.